whenever you're growing up, if you're a singer, the thing you do is you watch singing shows. You watch the judges, you judge people, you look at, oh, are they singing this right? Are they singing this wrong? Like, grow up being like, I want to be on that screen. I want to do that. So finally getting to that point is like, whoa, this is a full circle moment. Realizing that I had a story to tell. I did not want to be here anymore. And not just in school, but just like on the planet. I didn't want to exist. Like, whenever you songwrite, does like the music come first or the words? And it really just depends. But at that time, it was a lot of words. It was so much emotion and feeling. And I would be writing music and it would just be sad. It would just be sad music. And I was like, okay, if I was like happy where I was, I would not be writing this sad music.
What's up, everyone? Thank you for coming back to Be Frank Podcast, episode 26. I'm committed to provide a podcast for you guys to learn, inspire, be happy. Today we have a special guest, singer-songwriter, creator, PJ. And he is on American Idol right now. Welcome to the show, PJ.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's so kind of funny to call you PJ because I call you Peter. Yeah. And then, and then also, like, you know, as you guys probably don't know, but you are talented graphic designer, work for me at the Frank and advertising agency. But you know, we are surprised to hear that I didn't know you sung before and all that kind of stuff. Now you're American Idol, and then you went to Hollywood and all that kind of stuff. But let's introduce yourself. And I asked this question, that if you're making a website today, like a brand new stuff, and then if you're gonna write about yourself in the bio, what would you say in your bio?
Okay. Well, my name is PJ. My original name is Peter Gomez. I decided to change my name to PJ just because it's a childhood nickname. I felt like Peter Gomez had a lot of past tied to it. And I thought it was really important for, you know, when I took on this artist journey, you know, deciding like I'm going to, you know, pour all my resources, all my time, all my energy into becoming an artist, becoming a better creator. I wanted to kind of create a new identity for myself that didn't have a lot of like the past issues, problems, things tied to it. And so I kind of wanted to reinvent myself a little bit, which is why I chose to go with PJ. I'm from Lawton, Oklahoma, which is a small city, southwest Oklahoma, near the Wichitas. It is a military town. I am an Army brat, and my dad is retired military. And I was raised in the basement of a gospel church, which is kind of where I got my singing kind of start. From that point in school, throughout high school and everything, I would do choirs, different things like that. And now I guess once I got through high school, I decided that music was a very difficult path to take, and I didn't know if I was ready for it. And so I decided to go a more traditional school route and try architecture, which is where I kind of developed my love for design and the built environment. So I really liked it. I really enjoyed it, but it was very difficult. And I think my heart wasn't in it all the way. So I didn't think it was fair to myself to kind of put myself through all of these trials and tribulations with architecture. It's a very demanding program, and it just wasn't right for me. Throughout that time, I was still writing music, and that was really where I found my saving grace and my solace, was whenever I was writing, whenever I was performing and singing. And so I really decided, like, I think singing is what I want to do. So I was like, I'm going to just break out of this 2-year architecture program and throw away all my school credits and everything and try music. And it started going well. My grades shot up, my confidence shot up. I lost a lot of weight and kind of just felt better about myself. But I still felt like I was missing that creative design element. And so that's when I decided to go back into, as a day job, to go back into design, because I love creating, I love designing, especially graphics and working with clients. That was one thing I really missed. And so, yeah, now I do both. And it's really cool. And now we're doing American Idol, which is crazy.
That is awesome. So you were doing architecture and then you went back to, did you go back to the school and like a music stuff?
So yeah, I was in architecture school and I did 2 years of that.
Yeah.
Throughout like every semester, I would just go through these periods of time where I just did not want to move, leave my house, anything. I was going through like this mental breakdown kind of thing. And I knew that I wasn't where I was supposed to be. And it was really stressful just because architecture and OU is really expensive. And so I didn't really want to waste all of the credits, but I knew there was nothing else that I could do. And so I wanted to still finish a degree. Mm-hmm. So I decided to go to music school in Oklahoma City. And that's when I moved over to the city and just finished music school. I did like 3 years of that and got 2 associate degrees. And I was satisfied. I was working and it was good. But I still loved design, and so that's why I continued to do it. I didn't go back to architecture school. I just kind of started doing it as freelance, and then landed me a job working at an agency. Hashtag Frank.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, like, I'm glad that you changed the path, because like a lot of people have a hard time changing the path because, like you're saying, like it's sunk cost, right? Because of you're trying something, and then like, it's the hardest thing in life is like a decision to when to quit or when to keep going. Because if you quit, it's game over, right? But if you don't quit, maybe you become unhappy. And then, because like I was listening to a different podcast the other day saying that, you know, if you can think of yourself, say, if I didn't change myself on my life 5 years from now, then would I be happy? If it's happy, then keep going, you know, get going. You're probably doing good. But if you're seeing yourself 5 years ago, 5 years later, and then like most people will say, well, I'll be miserable. Then they can kind of quit, you know what I mean? So what was like a, you know, like a over the hill moment, I guess, like, oh, I gotta quit. Like, what was the turning point for you?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you say that, because that was a internal battle I was having, you know, throughout my whole time at architecture. Was like, I never saw myself as a quitter. And I didn't actually realize until I got to school, until I got to university, that I had ADHD. And so growing up, there was always things like I would pour 100% of my time and energy and forget everything else and, you know, excel at something. And then 3 months into it, I would just like change completely. And it caused like some friction growing up sometimes, because, you know, I think my family would get frustrated because they'd be like, you just, you know, did all this stuff and you like spent this money on this stuff and now you're not even doing it. And I didn't really realize what was going on at the time. And so I think when I got to college, I didn't want it to be that. I didn't want it to be something like, I didn't want it to be an impulse. And so I just kept enduring it. And I think really without getting really too much into it, I think the over the hill moment was I did not want to be here anymore. And not just in school, but just like on the planet. I didn't want to exist. I didn't want to go to class. I didn't want to leave my bed. I didn't want to answer my phone. I was no longer happy. I didn't want to talk to my family. I was self-isolating. It was scary. And it got really bad through, you know, when we were nearing this end of the second year. And I think I just thought, like, if I don't make a change, if I don't just do something different, something that actually makes me happy, then I'm afraid that I don't know how much longer I'll be here. So it was kind of like a shot in the dark. Like, I didn't know if it was going to work. Like, I didn't know if I was broken completely or if it was just, you know, where I was at. I had no idea. So I was just like, you know, if it's like either like I never leave my house and I'm completely miserable and depressed, or I just try something else and maybe that works. It was more so like, okay, I'm just going to choose the latter. And, you know, if it works, it works. I think I was super nervous about how my family would take it, because I had spent so much of time and energy and money into architecture. And I knew that if I was going to leave and try something completely different and move to a new city, I could not do it financially alone. And so I was going to have to call my parents and like try and rely on them at least for, you know, a little bit so I could get back on my feet, because I was a broke college student. And I knew that I was going to have that conversation of like, parents, like I'm not really happy where I am. And so it was like, knowing that I had to have that conversation meant that I had to actually have that conversation with myself. And that was probably the hardest part of like admitting that like I was wrong and I was not where I needed to be. So that was probably the moment when I was like, yeah, I gotta do something different. I don't know if it's gonna work, but you know, I don't know what else to do.
Damn. I mean, you don't have to answer this question, but like, so you went to the architecture route and then you didn't like you're not happy. Then you went to dark moment. Was that only things because of the architecture, those struggle went to a depression, or is there another things?
I think it was more, it was a culmination of things. Like it was everything at the time. I came from a small city and I was transported into this world of like massive university.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think like, oh, it's Oklahoma, like it's not that big of a deal, you know, it's small, there's bigger cities and everything. For me, like OU was such a massive change.
Yeah.
And so I was really struggling with my weight, with my self-image. Everyone was like going to do cool like college things, and I never wanted to go because I just hated the way I looked and felt. I wasn't confident, and I was like, okay, like maybe I can just take my energy and pour it into architecture and like try really hard. And I was like doing hours and hours in studio, not leaving for days. I had like a bed set up in architecture, and if there's any architecture students listening, they'll get it. And that worked for people, but every time I did that, it took a piece of me. And how I got through it was music. And so I was like, okay, wait, it's not adding up. Like I am no longer talking to my family. I am really stressed out constantly. It's difficult to just operate on a daily basis. And the only thing that's keeping me sane is music. And so I think I was just kind of like clinging to that lifeline and just was like, I just got to make it my full-time thing.
Like, were you singing in the shower, or like were you singing in the car, or like what was it?
It was writing. I wrote a lot. I would write when I was younger. I would write like little tunes on the ukulele. Was the first instrument that I learned. I would just write. I got a guitar and I spent like $100 on this like used nylon guitar, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna learn guitar and just like try and like peck around on the strings and write music. And I wrote this song. It's not out yet, and I don't know if it ever will be.
It'll be out. Maybe.
Oh yeah, we'll see. It's called Unstoppable, and it was about someone that I felt really inspired by, who was all about love and light and, you know, like finding your deeper purpose and meaning. And I felt very inspired by it, and like I was just writing, and I would write every day. I started like recording myself singing, but I was too scared to post it still. And I was just like, you know what? Like I had important people in my life. They're no longer as influential in my life now than they were. But those people in my life really helped nourish kind of like, you've got to take hold of like what you have. You have something different that, you know, we don't think people understand or see or but like, you know, they saw something in me that I didn't even see.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, okay, like I think I'm going to try and just post something online. I think I'm going to start posting my music, which I never did because I never thought anybody would want to hear. And then I started getting like good feedback, and people started wanting more and liking it. And so I was like, wait, maybe I can like make a whole thing out of this. And so that's when I was like, I think I've just got to leave. But then I didn't want to completely drop out. Like I didn't want to, my heart was still in school. I always loved school, which is like such a nerd thing to say, but I've always loved it. And so I wanted to make my family proud as well, and just show them that I could do the degree thing. Mm-hmm. And whenever I found a program that actually was meant for me, where I actually fit in, that's when I started really applying myself, and was like, the degrees came easy.
Yeah.
You know, so that's when it was like I knew it the first semester I left, and I was doing music. I was the happiest I'd ever been. I was performing, writing music, learning, producing, all these different things. I was posting, and it was just like, this is great. This is what your college experience is supposed to feel like.
Right.
And so I'm just blessed to have found that.
And then probably helped to like people you're surrounding yourself with understood you more.
Mm-hmm.
And then like I love that how you just like kind of like changed your course to what you love, and then you still kept what you kind of promised to finish the degree. You didn't have to.
Yeah.
And then also like I'm curious, like writing music, you're saying like you went to a dark times and you were writing music, and is that kind of almost like a journaling kind of to you? Because like when you're like, I do journal myself, and then when you're writing down my thoughts, it's just kind of relief. And then also like interesting to me, you're saying what you write it about, and then you're performing, you get the kind of feedback, and that makes you feel good, makes you happy. So I was curious to get out from the dark times. Was that to putting out your thoughts on the paper as a creative form, or like getting feedback from encouragement from others got you out from the dark times? I don't know, maybe both.
Yeah.
Have you thought about that process?
Yeah, I think it was both, because I had never journaled before. I wasn't a big journaler. I couldn't even stay focused long enough to get through like a single thought.
Yeah.
So I've been asked that question before, like whenever you songwrite, does like the music come first or the words? And it really just depends. But at that time, it was a lot of words. It was so much emotion and feeling. And I would be writing music and it would just be sad. It would just be sad music. And I was like, okay, if I was like happy where I was, I would not be writing this sad music.
Yeah.
So I think it kind of took me like writing down my thoughts, really understanding. I didn't understand what I was going through. I had no idea. I'd never experienced it before. And it's not like you get a manual, on this is how you feel. And this, going to therapy, going to the doctor, never big in my family. And I think that's maybe a cultural thing too, but like it was never normal to like go seek out therapy and stuff. So I didn't even know what I was going through or experiencing depression, what it was. And so when I started like writing out my thoughts and started seeing it on paper, I think it started to make it feel real, which is something that like really, I think saved me. And then the fact that people heard it and identified with it. And it was like this way of storytelling, not just my story, but something that felt so personal to me can like translate to someone else's life and they could have a completely different meaning. I think that was really transformative in my thinking, because I thought like, oh, I was all alone and I was only going through this, and like not even trying to be arrogant about it, but I thought that I was alone. Like I thought like no one could understand what I'm going through. Yeah. People's lives are different. And so the fact that people started listening to my stuff and being like, no, I get that. Like that makes sense. That identify with that. That's when I was like, oh, like I think I'm not alone in this, and people are like can see my story. So it was both. It was like I have a story to tell, and realizing that I had a story to tell was one. And then I think two was realizing that other people shared that story. And so being able to speak not only to myself, but other people, it felt like something that I had to do. Like it felt like something like I knew that this was saving me and this was helping me. And so if I could do that for someone else and save someone else that was in that same predicament of feeling like, I don't know where else to turn. I don't know where else to go. I'm like stuck, and I hear this music and this is my story, and maybe this inspires me to do something else. I think that was probably the point when I was like, I've got to start songwriting. Like, I've got to try this, because like it's helping me. So maybe it'll help someone else. Yeah.
I love that. But I mean, like if I'm understanding correctly, you're saying like you're writing a music and then kind of letting it out, and then like you kind of realize, oh, maybe this emotion is not correct, and you need to correct the life or whatever to become happier. And then when people realizing it, I think you enjoy more of helping others too through the music. Is that kind of how you felt?
Yeah, I think it wasn't more so like seeing the words on paper and thinking like, oh, I'm broken, I need to fix myself. It was more seeing like, oh, this is like who I am, this is my identity. Like it made it more normal when people identified with the same thing I was going with. I was like, oh, like maybe I'm not like a complete lost cause. Like this is normal. People go through this. Like people want to change their careers all the time. People want to do different things all the time. Like it's okay to feel lost. And so I think that's what my songwriting started to turn from. It started to turn from this like hopeless, painful side to this like hopeful, like I can change it. I just have to believe in myself and da 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 da. And so seeing that and being like, okay, I'm not broken. This is not a bad thing. It's okay to feel like pain, and it's okay to feel bad about where you're at in your life. I think that was probably the biggest thing. Like it wasn't that I was broken and I needed fixing. It was
that totally makes sense, because like whenever you're going through like a depression, I went to go through like dark times, and then whenever I was going through, and this is happening to me, only me. And then that gives it like, but also like social media, and then like we look at it, watch the videos of the highlight of people, they're happy forever, happy every time. And then I'm going through this hard times, and then like, man, I'm going through this stuff. And then I totally get it, what you're kind of saying. It's like, you know, if you feel like, oh, this is normal, it's like, it's a little bit of like a lot of weights off the shoulder. I think it makes sense. And then I was gonna ask you, like, what is the kind of like example, like a lyrics or something, the story you told, and then like resonate with your fans or audience or friends?
I haven't, there's a lot of music in the vault that I haven't put out. But there's this song, and it's basically talks about how the grass isn't always greener. And
How so?
I think it was more so like sometimes there's brokenness that surrounds you everywhere, and it's not always about abandoning ship or hopping the fence and going something like somewhere else. It was the fact that like I had to realize that I had something that needed nourishment and something that needed like my attention, until I realized like, oh, okay, I didn't need to like completely uproot myself to feel like better. I could just like nourish where I was at. And so once I got to that point and understood that, I was like, okay, now that I'm thinking clearly, and now that I'm understanding like, okay, I know what's going on. I know how to target it. Now I know how to healthily cope with what's going on. Now I can think clearly enough to make my next move. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but like that's probably one of my favorite lyrics that I've written. Is it's basically talking about how the grass isn't always greener, and how you know, to kind of grow where you're planted, and like that pollination will come. Like your pollen will carry, you'll grow, you'll change. But as long as you're growing where you're planted, I think that was like probably one of my favorite concepts to explore.
I love that. It's like grass is not always greener. You could make the grass greener within yourself.
For sure. And then maybe that in turn will make the grass greener on the other side. And then you can go to the other side. But sometimes it's like, maybe it's not the grass that's the problem. Yeah. Maybe it's like the weed that is growing there that is making the grass a problem. And if you jump ship and you go somewhere else, the weeds are going to go with you, you know? So it's like kind of understanding like what you need to target and what I needed to target, and kind of understand and bring to the forefront healing that like inner child, I think was the biggest thing too. And like understanding like, okay, let me explore this a little bit before I just like go somewhere else. Cause I could have went somewhere else and not seen an upturn, which would have been like terrible to kind of, then I was all alone, alienated completely. So I think songwriting really helped me understand the depth of myself that I didn't understand that I had.
So like, I saw your audition tape and stuff, and then like, you know, your mom was like very happy and all that kind of stuff. So I'm pretty sure she's very supportive of you. And then like I was curious of whenever you told her or you told parents about, hey, I'm gonna jump ship from architecture to music stuff, what did your parents say?
That was like probably one of the scariest moments of our relationship that I had leading up to it. I think I thought it was going to go way worse. But I didn't understand how tuned in my parents were to there being a problem. And I think when I finally came to them and said, hey, I'm not okay, and I really think I need this change, it was more so like, we've been waiting for you to come and tell us because we knew it was going to happen. And I think it's not always great to hear that because it's always like, oh, well, you know, why didn't you ask? Da, 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 da. But I think in my situation, it was because it felt like they were seeing me and they were just kind of letting me explore what that looked like for myself. And so I think when I finally came to them and was like, I've got to move, I've got to do this, I've got to change schools, there was, of course, the initial anger of like, you just spent all this money, you have all these loans, da 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 da, you know, are you gonna be okay with that? And still dealing with them now. But they were immediately like, okay, like we're gonna do this, like we're gonna help you move and we're gonna help you get on your feet. Because I think, as at least in my situation, my parents really wanted to see me succeed and they wanted to see me happy, which I'm incredibly blessed for. Because I think my family has been such a saving grace, such a support system. Whenever that came to, it was like having them there made me realize like I had spent so much time alienating myself from all of those who actually loved me. Like I had thought like, oh, they don't understand me, you know, they don't get me, da 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 da. Like I talked about this in a previous interview. Like the biggest aha moment for me was when I finally came to and opened my eyes. I realized how much love actually always surrounded me. It was just a matter of understanding that I could lean on them. And so I think once I finally took the risk and leaned on them, I really saw dramatic improvement in my life. And so it was really, it would probably brought us closer than we had ever been. Because I think for the first time, it wasn't necessarily that I was being honest with them. It was I was being honest with myself. And they were just there like to reciprocate like what the fallout was for that. Yeah.
I mean, like, also you're kind of like competitive in the nature, right? And then so like you probably didn't want to seems like losing to like I guess like a quitting to you know I guess like you know those programs, you know, career and all that kind of stuff. And then also like, you know, a lot of like a society and the TV shows and all that kind of stuff makes people being strong and don't quit and all that kind of stuff is that like a man or strong or those kind of stuff to be that stuff. But I think I like that, you know, like a society is kind of right now a little bit shifting to be more be kind, be vulnerable, be confident enough to share your feelings, share your problems, share your thoughts. That is true strongness and true strength. And then like we're kind of seeing weird social media era. Would you agree to that? Or like, do you think it's still, you know, society and everybody in general is like, look at people is like quitting and then changing and talking about feelings as a weakness?
I think there's like micro communities that exist everywhere that, you know, have their own understanding of it all. But I think the general nature of the internet is shifting. I agree with you. I think the biggest thing is like opening the floor to the conversation. Yeah. And there's more people talking about how I think it's because of the rapid expansion of the internet. People are able to connect with communities all across the world. Like if you can't find people who are like you in your hometown, or people who understand you where you're at, you can go on the internet and find those people.
Yeah.
And so I think it's been really cool to be part of that expansion and see the conversation shift of like, people are talking about not being okay more. People are talking about like not understanding more. And you see that from more people now too, where it's like being able to see people and see that they're not in the greatest spot, but they're trying.
Yeah.
And like it's inspiring in that way. And I want to bring it back to that point that you made about like being like a strong male character. I think it was a lot of like checking my ego. Like I didn't realize that I had an ego problem, but it took me checking my ego to understand like I've got to just go back. I've got to backpedal and I've got to try something else. And like this was all in my head too, but like going to my dad and saying like I was wrong, because my dad always told me, he was like, you're not gonna like architecture, like and I was like, you don't know what you're talking about, Dad. Like I like building buildings, I was a Lego kid, da 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 da. And he was like, you're not gonna like it. And I think it was a lot of like checking my ego and being like, yeah, you were right, I did not like it, it was not great. But yeah, I think it's really cool to experience that on the internet, because I think people now are more so open to the fact of like being not okay. Yeah. And being like, I don't know everything. Yeah. I don't understand what's going on. I'm just a human trying to figure it out. Like we're literally on a floating rock. Yeah. So like, I'm just going to try and figure out the best I can. And so it's cool to feel like the community aspect in that.
That's awesome. Yeah. Internet is getting better, but also internet is savage, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like once you get it, like, more like famous and notoriety and all that kind of stuff, I'm pretty sure you get some sort of those comments.
Oh, it's happened. It's happened already. I try not to, my sisters help a lot with my social media.
Yeah.
And they have been really awesome, like in keeping that side away from me.
That's awesome.
I think it's because I've seen comments already, and my journey has just kind of started.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I thought it would affect me more than it did. And I think it's just because I had gone through that already. I've experienced that already. People not understanding me, people not like looking at me a certain way because I talk a certain way or because I act a certain way. And so I had already understood that I was fighting an uphill battle, especially with the audience, right? Like the demographic of the show. But I think it was important for me to just kind of approach it as like being authentically myself. And I just hope people can see that of like, it's not about like putting the power to the man or whatever, like, like sticking it to them and stuff like that. It's more so just like, I have like already kind of gone through like hiding myself and shielding myself and the pain that comes with that. And it's so exhausting. And so I kind of mentioned this in an article that like people will argue and say that like finding yourself on reality television is not necessarily the greatest thing. But I think I would argue that it is honestly probably even more so effective, because you have to be put in situations that you don't really get to be put in normal life. And so you have to be confident in like what you're doing, what you're saying, what you're wearing, all of these different things, like, because people are going to pick it apart. Yeah. And they've already started, but the most part, people have been so welcoming, and people have DM'd me saying like, oh my gosh, I'm so like, I see myself in you. Like I saw your story and I identify with it and all of these things. And when I started American Idol, I had told myself like, if I can just reach one person who is like me, who didn't think that anyone understood them or didn't know what they were going to do, they were broken, they were lost, they didn't know where they were going to go. If I could reach one person and be able for them to see something in themselves through me and say, I can do it because maybe this person doesn't know exactly what they're doing, but they're trying at least, then that would be successful to me. And the amount of people that have come to me and already said that, and I've like just started, is crazy. And I'm just really, I'm blessed to be able to absorb those comments, because I think they're so fueling and indicative of the nature of the internet and media changing, because it's important. Representation is important. And I think people seeing real stories and see people being able to see themselves in people on the screen is important.
Yeah, that is awesome. I mean, like people see through the authenticity, and then you share the story about that. It takes courage to share. And then like I saw the show that, you know, you talk about bullying and all that stuff. To share that story on the national television, it takes the courage to do it, you know. So like I think that I'm proud of you for that, doing that stuff. So to share that, helping even one person, I think it's, if you can help one person, it could be thousands and hundreds and millions and that kind of stuff. But can you kind of walk me through about like how did you get bullied and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, I didn't really know that I was overcoming it, to be honest. But I think the biggest thing was I was so different from the average person, or not the average person, but just the typical person, especially in my hometown. And so I was still figuring out, you know, who I was. And I bet when I was growing up, we didn't have a lot of the sides of the internet that we have now. And so there was a lot more closed-minded people. And I didn't even understand half of the things that they were calling me, saying things to me and stuff like that. And I think that even translated to me becoming the bully in instances as well. And so I think once I kind of looked back on it, I started to kind of understand it more of like, everyone is just confused and scared. And it gave me a lot more compassion in order to look at my bullies in the past and see also places where I bully people as well. And just, I think the biggest thing is like understanding that people from so many different walks of life exist, and you don't have to understand someone to give them compassion, to give them love. You don't have to like understand everything that they're going through or whatever, just to meet people where they're at. And so I think back then, being bullied, I tried really hard to not to dim the noise, or to get on bullies' good sides and like to kind of fly under the radar. But it was so, my personality, it's hard to fly under the radar when I didn't even realize it at the time, but it's like I have such a bubbly personality. I'm loudmouth. My mom is a loudmouth. It just runs in the family. And so I think I was just didn't realize what I had to offer. And so people saw that and they took advantage of like whatever fear they had. And the only reason I can say that is because I think I saw that in myself, doing that as I matured and as I got older, especially in my younger years, because I started doing it to people too, because I was hurt and confused. And so at the time, I didn't know that I was going through, I mean, there was even this time, this is, if anyone is from LCS is watching this, like, this is going to be a funny story, but there was a time, I think, I want to say it was like 6th or 7th grade. I want to say it was 6th grade. I had gotten all my class together, both classes. We had like 2 classrooms of our grade. I brought them in. I would like talk to the teachers, and I was like, I need to apologize to my students, or like to my fellow classmates.
Okay. And
I brought them into the auditorium, and I like stood up. This is so funny. I stood up in front of everyone. I sat everyone down. I just was like, I am so sorry. Like, if I bullied you, like, I'm sorry if I was mean. I'm sorry if because I think my delivery is hard sometimes to read through, like my sarcasm and stuff like that. And so people didn't understand me well, and I didn't understand myself.
What'd you do?
Like, I can't even, I don't even remember. Like, I think I was like saying stuff to people, and it was just like, I can't even remember what was wrong.
Yeah.
Like, but I just remember it being an issue. Like, people did not like me in my sixth grade class. Like, people were like saying that I was mean and all this stuff. And I was just like, I can't believe that I became what I was running from all these years. I can't believe that I am that. Right. And so I was like, did the dramatic thing and was like, I'm going to get everyone in the class into the auditorium and say like, sorry. And honestly, it really brought me closer to my fellow classmates, like to be able to say like, I'm sorry, I messed up and I don't know what I'm doing and I'm sorry. And people like, it was like, became like an intervention and people would like stand up and be like, we forgive you. And da, 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 da. Like, I can't even tell you what I did. I really don't remember, but I think it's moments like that in my life where I'm like, I started to understand that people are just confused and people just don't understand themselves. Yeah. Because that's how it was for me. And so growing up, then I just it started to get a little bit better and I started to be able to tune out the noise a little bit more. And the biggest thing is like, I used to take a lot of things personal. And a lot of times when people are upset or angry and they're like saying things to you, calling you names, it has nothing to do with you. Yeah. And it has everything to do with what they're going through and what they're saying and like things that they're like experiencing. And so I think being able to just be like, that has nothing to do with me. That's your, your prerogative. And if you want to go do that over there, that's fine.
Yeah. So, also it's kind of temporary, right? Because you're saying like, oh, I don't remember what I said. It's kind of like when you're mad at somebody, oh, I don't even know why I'm mad. You know what I mean? And a lot of people say, like understanding other people and then like caring for others and then be kind to others is important. But sometimes being understood become like a priority, but being understood is like really not necessary. If you know your value and your core, because most people is different. So some people don't understand, So just like not knowing understood is like, I think it's important. But like, I thought that was like funny. You saying like, apologies and then everybody get back to it. I think it's funny, like, cause most people, like when you apologize to somebody truly, they will forgive you. Because if they get anger towards to you after you apologize, like they look like they're the douchebag, And then, but most people get like recognize their fault, but they keep doing excuses, keep saying excuses. So other opposite will get more angrier and all that time. So just say sorry, like I think please and sorry and thank you is the most powerful English words in the world, I believe. But I was curious that whenever you're going through an auditorium and all that kind of stuff, did you always have those like I guess confidence on the stage to like put together people in front of you, like speak, like right now, like you're in American Idol, right? And then you have to sing in front of judges. Also, you are singing national anthem and stuff in like a Thunder game and the NBA games and all that kind of stuff. And then it takes courage, right? Like, did you always had that capability? Because I thought it was funny you're saying I put everybody in the auditorium, like, so I bet you're like always had that confident. Or
I don't know if I ever looked at it as confidence. I think I kind of looked at it as like myself. Like it was so normal. Like I was comfortable on stage. I guess my family, I'm the youngest. And when I say I'm the youngest, I'm like like by 13 years. And so my family was all having adult conversations when I was growing up. And so a lot of my personality was like coming from just wanting to be a part of the conversation and understanding that I had to be a little bit more mature or talk a certain way so I could have, something to say at the table. Exactly. Yeah. And so, I had to like fight for like more of people to see me, like, so these adults could see me. Right. So I think if I had to try and put something to it, I would say something like that. But a lot of it was false confidence. Like, I think looking back on it now was like, I was so scared that it read as that I was super confident. Yeah. But every time I would go on stage, I think especially when I was younger, before all of the weight started to kind of get on me, like the weight of bullies and like negativity and all of that stuff. Before all of that stuff started to weigh on me, I think I was just excited to share what I had. Like I was excited to just share and excited to be there, excited to be a part of the conversation. And if no one else was going to grab the mic and do a solo, like I want to do it because that seems fun. It's different. It's like a change. And so I never looked at it as like, oh, I'm like confident and I'm just going to go grab the mic. It was more so like, that's who I was. That's like who I am. And,
so did you get nervous like while you were doing the audition for American Idol?
Very nervous. I was like shaking. Really? I blacked out completely.
Yeah.
It's interesting going in front of a stage with hundreds of people is not nearly as hard as singing in front of people that you know, or singing in like a small intimate room, which I feel like a lot of people could get confused on that. But I think how I can kind of paint it for you is like when it's people that you know, or it's a small intimate setting, every single wrong thing you do is going to be perceived, at least in my mind. I'm like, people are going to see if I make a mistake. I'm going to see these people afterwards. I'm probably going to have to talk to them afterwards. And I can see all their faces and all of their like expressions. And now I'm like I'm like overthinking, oh, did they like that or did they not? But in a big crowd, it's like almost like faceless people. And so it's just like a screen almost.
Like potatoes or whatever.
Exactly. And so I think going into the room, I just remember thinking like, I have this method like to get through auditions.
Yeah.
I will stare at the judge. Like I will just stare them in the eye. I don't know why it works, but it works for me. I feel like it keeps me present because I'm just looking at their eyes, not their face, not their expression, nothing. Just
did you look
literally
all three?
Yeah. So I'll like all three of their eyes. I'll look. Maybe I'll close my eyes for a second, but if I close my eyes, I will get too in my head about everything, and I won't really feel like I'm connecting with everything. So I will look as much as I can.
Yeah.
And keep myself present. I think staying present is the biggest thing too, is like understanding, like feeling the air conditioner, feeling your skin, like feeling the room, the lights, the colors, what you're wearing, like being present in that moment and not getting wrapped up in your head.
Yeah.
But it was so scary going into that room. There's so many lights, bright lights, cameras, moving things, sounds. So it's very overstimulating, and you're going in and you're singing for your life because you're like, this is what I've always wanted to do since I was a little kid.
You wanted to always go into American Idol?
I don't know if I always wanted to go to American Idol, but I always wanted to be on stage performing for people. I think that was where I always felt comfortable and safe, which is strange. But I knew that like you watch TV as a singer, and every singer will understand this, I think, especially from America. Like whenever you're growing up, if you're a singer, the thing you do is you watch singing shows. You watch the judges, you judge people, you look at, oh, are they singing this right? Are they singing this wrong? Like, how can I do this? How can I do that? You know, all of these things, you're picking it apart. And you grow up being like, I want to be there. I want to be on that screen. I want to do that. So finally getting to that point is like, whoa, this is a full circle moment. And so I think in my head, I was trying not to get like in my head about it, that this is a full circle moment. And if I mess up or if something goes wrong, it could be the end.
What was the point of like, okay, so because you could have went to American Idol last year, 2 years ago, right? Why this year?
Well, I it's interesting because it was like a culmination of things, kind of going back to what I was talking about just like briefly about not knowing who I was, how I was lost. I had tried out for American Idol during that time. I was different. I didn't understand what my style was, how I wanted to sing, what I wanted to say. I was still figuring all of that stuff out. I was still figuring out like who I am as an artist and what do I want people to connect to? Like how do I connect to people? What is it that I'm trying to say? I was still trying to figure that out. And I think producers, judges at the time, like when I had tried out previous times before, I think had saw that, and I didn't always. And I think this time around was different because, so how I got there was, I have a friend, her name is Courtney Smith, and she was on Idol a few seasons ago. She had made a friend who is now was casting for the show.
Oh, nice.
And he reached out to her and was like, hey, do you know a guy that would be willing to audition? We're looking for a guy. And she gave him my name. And so when he messaged me, I thought it was fake and I didn't know what was going on. And I was also going through a hard time in my life too. This was back in August. And so I was going through a lot of changes. Everything it felt like was changing at once. And then this happened. And I was just like, I'm just going to like try it and see what happens, because this has come onto my plate. I wasn't seeking it out. And this is something I've always saw myself doing. So I feel like maybe this is now what they call when it's like meant to be, when you feel like this is divine intervention. This is like a synchronicity. And I felt like this was an opportunity knocking. My dad always says opportunity always knocks once. He's so funny like that. But he always says opportunity knocks once. And I thought like, this is opportunity, it's knocking. And if I don't answer because I'm scared, because I feel like I'm not ready, then I'll be throwing this away. So I was just like, I'm going to go and try this. And I think that's when I was even there, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know what I'm going to wear. Like, is this really what I want? Because once you start going to it, like everyone in your head, you're like, oh, go audition, you get the judges, But once you're there, it starts to get real.
Yeah.
You start, I'm going to have eyes on me.
Yeah.
People are going to look at me. People are going to expect things from me. And so breaking through all that noise was kind of like really difficult. And I think if I didn't have my mom there, it would have been even harder. But I was going to wear this outfit, and I had worn it to filming, and cause they do a few different days of like filming around, before you actually audition. And so I'd worn it around, and I was like, I can't wear this. Like, this doesn't feel like me. It feels like I'm trying to be someone else.
Right.
Still going back to why I think it didn't work out before, it was because I didn't know who I was. But I think this time around, I was just like, I think I do know who I am, and I'm just going to go on as myself. And so I was like, I'm just going to put on this flannel. I'm going to wear these jeans. I'm going to wear these high heel boots because I need some confidence booster. I'm going to wear these heels, and hopefully they like make me like more confident when I go into the room. They worked. And so I think this time around, I think I understood who I wanted to be and what I wanted to say. And I feel like the judges felt that from me, which is really cool to experience. And then all the people messaging me now and like seeing themselves in me is really crazy, because it's like I was going from a point where I didn't know what I was doing, and I still don't. I'm still figuring it out. So it's cool that I get to do this, and it's a blessing, really.
That is awesome. I mean, like, honestly, like, I respect that, like, after hearing that more, because, whenever you go to, like, have, like, you say you were dreaming about this, like, a music career, and then, like, watching a TV show, and then you kind of idolize it, or, like, visualize it, how it's going to be, and then you say you auditioned this before. So that's why I have so much more respect for you, because of once you go to audition, you fail once. Means like some people quit there because, I'm not good enough singer, or whatever. Like, they didn't see me. But you're like, okay, like, I'm good singer, but I just need to work on myself, figuring out what I have to do. And then the opportunity present, you took advantage of it, and then you did it. And, it takes a courage, because you failed once, or like I didn't get accepted. So that's why I think I have respect. I mean, honestly, I am doing the kind of same thing, because I lost my last fight, but I want to go again to win, because I could say I suck or whatever, but I'm practicing hard and harder. And then like you have to recess, and then people saying like you learn from mistake. But I think it's true. But if you can learn from mistake, but if you can take time to assess and recognize, evaluate, then you can learn from it. Some people like, oh, I failed, I learned, you know what I mean? If you don't really evaluate your failure, then you don't really learn anything. You just loser, I think, you know what I mean? So I think it's just hard pill to swallow to hear, but I think that's what you exactly did, is like you said, okay, this was my ego, and I didn't know what you were doing. Now you worked on yourself, and then now you are here, and then like that's why I think you're becoming successful, and then also you're doing so much thing to inspire other people. I think it's such a cool things you're doing. And then I was curious that going to, what was the feeling like to getting the ticket?
Yeah, I think getting the ticket was really crazy because it kind of felt like I had only thought through getting into the room, and I didn't really think like, okay, if I get the ticket, like what next? And so I think getting the ticket was like, oh, this is really uncharted territory. And the fear started to set in immediately of like, what next? Like, what else? What else do I have to do? Like, now I have to, sing?
Now you weren't happy for a second?
Oh yeah. No, I was happy. I was very happy. But I think in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, this is like happening. Like, this is crazy. It was like good nerves. It was good anxiety. It was like, okay, so now I've got to, plan things. And then everything became like really exciting because it was like, okay, now I can really kind of explore who it is that I am, especially as an artist on this show. And it's interesting saying like what you said about failures is like, going through that, I didn't realize that what I was doing was character development. Like, I didn't realize that all of the failures that I had were setting me up for this moment. But then once I was there and once it happened, I started looking back at like being like, oh wait, all of these things that I thought were mistakes, that were wrong, that I was late, that I regretted, they happened all for a reason, and they put me where I was for a reason. I didn't realize it at the time while I was going through the thick of it, but now that I feel like I'm on a new chapter, I'm like being able to look through that chapter synopsis and be like, oh, like this makes sense. And now I'm a designer and I can like help market myself better. I work at an agency that is helping me market myself, capture video content, all these different things. I am a better singer. I am more comfortable posting things online. It just felt like all of these different problems and changes and hard things and failures all were like leading up to this moment being like, wait, now I'm prepared. And I feel now that I'm prepared for something, to take on something like this. And it's only because of the incredible people around my life that have kind of prepped me for this. And so when I got the ticket, I felt like this was not just my ticket. This was like my family's, and I mean family in the broadest term possible. Like, I think this was like, I only am standing here because of all of the great people that have nourished and poured into my life. And so it felt like a reward of like, okay, I'm a product of my environment. And I'm really grateful that my environment got me to where I was. And so I think once I got that, I was like, this is validating. I even say it in the episode, like, it's validation to know that I'm doing something right, because sometimes all you need is like a pat on the back. Like, sometimes all you need is like a good job. And so it just felt like a really, really exciting good job. Like, it felt like a gold star, but a gold ticket. Like, it was like, you did all these things, you went through all of this shit, you went through all of these hard times, and here's a gold star. So it's cool that it's not over. And I think that is what reality started to set in. Like, I was like, okay, like, what's next? Like, what else? And I'm excited to show people more. Cause I think I'm trying to just approach this more so in a way of like exploring who I want to become, and anybody who sees that in themselves can just like come along.
Yeah. I love that how you're saying like that's your product of like all other people helps you and then all that kind of stuff, and then you got a big ass pat on the back from like 3 celebrity to, you know, good job, you did a good job, so you're going to Hollywood. And then so I think this episode will be published after Hollywood Week, so maybe we can talk a little bit about what is like working with celebrities, and then what was like Hollywood Week for you.
Yeah, so I think without giving up too much away, the biggest thing I thought that was a reality check going into it was like we don't really work a lot with the celebrities. You see them like as much as you see on camera is pretty much as we see them. There's not a lot of, especially in Hollywood, you're going from 100,000 people auditioning, hundreds of thousands. I think I want to say it was like hundreds of thousands. I remember being in a meeting and them saying, going down to 350 people that come to the live cities, and then we're dwindling down to like 150 people. And I think
so 150 people go to Hollywood.
It's like about 150.
Cool.
And being there, it's really like camp. It's really like music camp, but
Is that like a competition kind of vibe, or like a hey, let's become friends vibe?
It is kind of like that, because I think
which one?
It's kind of like the hey, let's become friends kind of vibe.
Okay.
Because which was really exciting, thankfully, because it's really not catty. Like people are not like in their own world and all of these different things. Because at that point in the competition, you're really not competing against each other. Yeah. Like you're really, you know.
I'm pretty sure everybody's nervous and all that kind of stuff.
And honestly, American Idol, like it's a show. It's a television show. It's a reality television show. And there's certain things there's a lot of things as a contestant that are out of your control. There's a lot of great people that went home in Hollywood Week that you probably won't even see on the episodes that don't get aired. I mean, 150 people, if you watch back, you will not see 150 people on the screen.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest thing that maybe people don't realize all the time is that all the characters that you see on screen, they're not all of them. And sometimes there's really, really incredible people. I mean, this season, I haven't been a part of other seasons, but I've watched it on every single year. And being there was probably the most talent I've ever seen. And so it can go one of two ways. You can get there and be like, oh, I'm one of these people. I'm one of these good singers. Or it can be like, I don't deserve to be here. So I think that was the two kind of paths that were like kind of going through my mind. Like I was teetering back and forth like, oh, this is super exciting, super happy. I'm excited to be here and be a part of this. And also, why am I here? I don't deserve to be here. I'm not a singer.
So like what you're saying, like, did you see like a people who are like a better singer than you went home?
Oh yeah. I think there's a lot of great people that went home that I would see as better than me.
Damn.
But I think the biggest thing is that like that's why I'm just grateful to be standing here, because I don't know if it's about I don't know how they make their decisions. I have no idea. But I think the coolest thing about Hollywood Week is that you get to meet so many people from literally across the country, all like you. They're all people who feel lost, who feel like confused, who feel misunderstood, singers, songwriters, artists. So you get all of these people together in a room and you can make really cool stuff. So it's like, okay, maybe you don't get through the first round of Hollywood Week or whatever, and but you made like incredible friends through it, and now you met a producer. Maybe you now have a friend in Nashville, in New York, in LA, and that's all that the music industry is really networking. So it's a massive leg up, even if you just end at Hollywood Week. It's a massive leg up because it gets you exposure to how much is out there. Because especially when you're from smaller towns that don't have a bustling music scene, it's hard to feel like what you're doing is making any type of stride.
Got you. Yeah.
And so I think in Hollywood Week, you really get to see how many of them there are, how many people just like you there are. So it feels like, oh wow, we're just like in this thing, and it almost feels like you're seeing a snapshot into what the future of the music industry is. Great singers, so many good singers. It was insane. And I think the first round, because you don't get to see everyone they have like in the theater. You don't get to see every single person because you're being pulled every which way. But from the people that I saw, I mean, there was incredible performances, and it's crazy to think that not all of them will be shown. So it sucks, but it's like the nature of the beast, you know?
I mean, nature of the, show too, right? Because it's like if you look at all the singers and musicians and all that kind of stuff, the best singer, best talent doesn't really sell the most album. It has to be complete package. It's like there's a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, whatever. Like, to be able to sell a book, you don't go to writing class. You go to sales class, because it does say New York bestsellers, not New York best writer. You know what I mean? So I think it's just complete package of. I think that's why I think such an important things that you had courage to talk about your past and your personalities, and it was a package deal. And then also you worked on that. It is not necessary, maybe it's necessary to help your music too, because you can be more vulnerable so that you can reach out to more people. It's not skill. I'm not saying, I think you're an amazing singer. It's just that helps that you have more levels to it. Maybe that's why some people make it, some people don't.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think through it all, like going through that experience, I am just really blessed to be still in the competition, because there was a lot of incredible people that went home. And I think, kind of going back to what you said, I never really view it like that. I kind of just am happy to be here. Like, and so I think going through performances and stuff like that, I there was some troubles that I went through. Like, I lost my voice, and
damn,
that was really hard. And kind of, you have to be on all the time, 100%. If you're at this music camp with like 50 incredible singers that have been handpicked across the country, and you're not at 100%, it's hard to be like, I'm okay. Yeah. So it's almost like this, a lot of like stress and just like navigating your own self-conscious, especially if you're going through like not having a voice or going through things at home or dealing with so much. And so we're expected to be on, which is difficult at times, and it's not for everyone. And there's people there that went through Hollywood Week that are like, I don't want to be here. Like, this is not the vibe. You know, this is not my thing. But for the people that did make it through, I think that they really encompass the musical landscape of where it is right now. I think this season really, really does encompass a lot of the diversity of sounds, artists, people, characters. The people on this season are real, true artists, and I'm just super happy to be at the table with them. Like that, I think that's the biggest thing. And it's really, really helped reframe my mindset and look at my life and my career differently, of like taking it seriously. Before, I think I was going through just being like, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to do this thing, and that'll be good. But now I'm like, how can I innovate? How can I do something different and stand out? Because there is so many talented people. And now that I feel confident enough to consider myself an artist, what does that look like for me? And I think being able to rely on people in my life and like go to them for guidance and center myself, that has been such an incredible experience to feel. And so I think especially exploring what design is for me too. I think I'm just excited to see where this could possibly take me and my hometown, because I feel like a lot of people from my hometown don't think that there is a next step.
Yeah.
They don't think that there is a way out.
Yeah.
And not necessarily a way out, but like a way to develop yourself.
Yeah.
And so I think Lawton is really, I am just trying to kind of make them proud mostly, and just hopefully people there in Lawton see that like being from Lawton is not a hindrance. It is more like armor that protects you. And so I think it's really exciting. The season is awesome. I'm excited.
That is amazing. I mean, like I bet you're inspiring Lawton people, but also that you're inspiring other people come from small town like Lawton, and then like showcasing the possibility, right? The possibilities is endless. I think that what you're showcasing and then inspiring people, I mean, that's inspiring me and inspire other people, inspiring people who you work with. I mean, a lot of people are excited about you, and I think that differentiation from all the talents and all that kind of stuff. I bet working at like a marketing agency and then being a graphic designer to have that, because your job is to make our client different, right? Like would you kind of a little bit talk about what you do at work?
Yeah. So I came into the agency as a branding designer, and I still do a lot of branding now. Basically what a branding designer does is they work with clients of different like sizes and really try and create a visual brand, a visual aid to customers. And it's all in an effort to show people psychologically and like visually what the brand is about, what the business is about, what it means, what it feels like. So it's coming up with a character, coming up with like values, what they stand for. And so here at work, that's kind of what we do. And I think I do a lot of advertising. So like out of home advertising, which is billboards and print advertising, things like that. And it's really about keeping it consistent. A lot of newer companies don't always understand how important consistency is. And a lot of consumers and a lot of people that are shopping don't understand that they love consistency. And so a lot of what I do is ensure that we take this business and we create this visual identity for them, and that translates in every single thing they do, down to where they put their periods, where they put their semicolons, how they write a word. It's down to that much detail, because if one thing is off, people don't realize that they're seeing it, but they are. And so that's a little bit about what we do. We just make brands look and feel great, and we help them effectively communicate their vision and their product.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, whenever first time I met you, like it's just like I always thought that you had eye of like a good eye, but you can see, because I define like 3 creative, right? Like one, people who can see, people who learn to see it, people who never see it. And then I thought your websites and all that kind of stuff looked good, and then all the brands you made, and it looks good, and all that kind of stuff. And then you and I had like some sort of like arguments and all that kind of stuff. It's like it's not always like a fun conversation we had, but I'm glad you're still here. And then I mean, I respect JC made the decisions and all that kind of stuff, and then working together in a way. I think that's a cool things we do, and then cool things. And I'm very happy that you are pursuing your dream, and then our company Frank can like contribute a little bit about like a video or something like that. And then I've been seeing your t-shirts and merchandise to help support or whatever you're doing for your social media influence and stuff. And then that I'll of course put that link down below so that people can go there to buy stuff. But I usually in this segment asking 2 questions. So 2018 is about 5 years ago. What were you doing 5 years ago?
2018, I had just started I just went through my first year of college. I graduated in 2017 and I went straight into college. So I had just finished my first year at architecture school.
So what advice would you give yourself 5 years ago?
Run. No, I'm just kidding. I think if I had to give myself advice 5 years ago, I would have told myself that I was not alone and that it was okay to not be okay. And I know it sounds cheesy, but truly, I think I was really struggling with my ego and feeling like I had it all together and feeling like I knew everything that was going on and I knew exactly clear plan of where I was going to go and all these things. And then in the process of that, denying my passion and trying to develop another passion for something that wasn't necessarily there for some other reason that I thought people wanted. I thought that the thing to do was to go get a degree and, people try musicians, but it doesn't really work out and maybe my heart's not in it, whatever. I think I would have told myself to cut through all the noise and to really listen to myself and step outside of my ego. I wish I knew what an ego was at 2018. But I think I would have told myself to just listen to my heart and to not worry about what people were thinking or what I expected to do. I know that's a long-winded answer, but I think it would have helped.
Yeah, that's amazing though. I mean, like, honestly, like, that's what you learned and now, and then you tell that's what you tell yourself as advice, but also it applies probably forever, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a very good advice. But how do you see yourself in 5 years?
5 years, which 5 years would be 20. What's 5 years from now? 2028?
Yeah.
Well, if the planet is still here, I think I see myself. Gosh, that's a hard question. I think
because of the American Idol outcome will probably change the different stuff, right?
It could. I think 5 years from now, I don't see a clear place of where I will be. However, I do see myself more of sound mind. I see myself with a healthy relationship with myself, with my body, and with my family, with my friends. And I see myself ministering to people through music, whether it be at a bar or on a world tour, I don't know. But I think being able to sing this is probably as normal as it's been so far. Singing, I've sang probably a few times a month now. And I think if I'm able to do that, to be a full-time musician and to be someone who is working with other musicians, helping them brand themselves, helping them reach more people, if that's what I'm doing, I'd be satisfied. So I think I really, really want people to look at themselves as a business, because that's something I learned being at Frank, is that in order to build yourself, you can't look at yourself as like, oh, this is just something that I want to do. You have to look at yourself as a brand, as a business, and how you want your business to move. So I think in 5 years, if I'm able to do that and really take it seriously long enough and power through the burnout, I think I could be somewhere cool and doing something that I love. And I think maybe I'll have a group of artists that I've helped get there as well.
That is awesome. Well, I feel like that will come true. But
we'll see.
Yeah. I would like to ask the last question. Like, what would you say to people who are struggling the way you were maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago yourself, getting, having dark times, going through those stuff? What would you say to them?
I would say that they're not broken and that the world needs them, because I really, really thought that no one would know that if I went missing. And I think the biggest thing that helped me was starting to lean on people that loved me. And once I opened my eyes to that and saw the support system that was always there, it really helped dig me out of that rut that I was in for so long. And so I think if there's people out there struggling and they don't know where they're going to turn or where they're going to go, I think they should start with people that love them and check in with them and communicate to them that they don't know what's going on. Because a lot of times you share a lot of experiences with people and you don't even realize it. And so a lot of times people in your circle could be going through the same thing. Opening the floor for conversation helped so much. Having hard conversations with people that cared about me, with friends, with family, with mentors, that helped me understand that I wasn't broken. It was normal. And it made me come up with a plan of how to get out of it. So I think step one is understanding that you're not broken. And no matter how hard things are, like, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And if that tunnel starts with people that love you, I think that's the biggest thing. Find people that love you. It'll help.
That's awesome. That's a beautiful way to put it. And then that makes me realize, I think that people who are going through the hard times, it's hard for them to reach out because it takes courage. But at the same time, I've been noticing a lot of people behind their smiles and behind faces, most people are going through a lot of hard times. I think asking people, calling people, like even like I had a guy, my teammate, like he told me that he's going through hard times, and then we're kind of like, yeah, everybody is kind of, you know what I mean? But also I did make a phone call, say, hey, let's go to gym together. And then that meant a lot for him, and then he talked to me a lot about it, and then he came back to a gym afterwards and all that kind of stuff. I think people who are going through hard times needs to understand there is a help, but also people who are not going through the hard times right now could be going through the hard times. So that just having understanding of people might be going through hard times, if they see some sort of sign, just reach the hand out to say, hey, how you doing? You know, there's always help.
Compassion.
I think that'd be a best way to do it. But well, thanks for coming in. But how can other people can support you, find you?
Yeah, so well, they can follow me on social media at This Is PJ. It's PJAE on everything. They can look up my website. Shout out to Dylan for helping me. But it's thisispj.com. And yeah, they can stream my music. They can find links to all of that stuff on my social media. And at the time of this episode, I'll see if we'll have merch live. But if there is, buy my merch.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming in, PJ. So thank you everybody for watching this. If you're watching this on the YouTube, please like and then comment what you learned about PJ, and then what you want to see, and then maybe support, encouragement to his show, his journey. If you're listening to iTunes or Spotify or wherever the podcast platform is, give me a 5-star review. I don't know what it does, but probably helps me. So welcome back, and then come back on next Friday. Every Friday, new episode, Be Frank Podcast. See you guys next time. Peace.